So good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It is a fantastic opportunity to present this very innovative session to you. The University of Pennsylvania is running a 2-week conference, the Global Oral Health and Climate Action Conference, parallel and during the main conference that's happening in Belém, Brazil. And the idea of all these sessions is to generate policy recommendations, some action points that will be collated and then feed back into bigger agendas in WHO and also government agendas. So the material coming out of this session will be very much utilized and taken forward. As COP30 presidency said, we need to go from talking to action and implementation. And this, I understand, is really at the heart of this agenda. So without further ado, I will hand back to Valentina and wish you success for this tremendous session that you put together.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you for this opportunity. And I would like to invite our co-chair, Dr. Elin from Norway, to start this presentation and to introduce our speakers for today.
Thank you so much, Valentina, and hello everyone around the world. Today we come together with a shared commitment to climate resilience prevention, the visionary principle and knowledge of what it takes to ensure holistic health, all in the best interest of both children and the planet. As an advocate for children's rights to quality early childhood education and planetary well-being, I'm honored to serve as the moderator for today's webinar with you world-leading experts on a variety of approaches to our webinar on early childhood education as the first line of NCD and climate resilience prevention. My role as a doctor and professor of early childhood pedagogy and as the director of the Kintnow Research Center for Systemic Research on Education for Diversity and Sustainable Futures in Norway has reinforced my belief that in the critical importance of this topic. And I truly believe that the session today will fuel my energy even more. I will remind us all of the WHO UNICEF Lancet Commission, led by Helen Clark, stated in 2020, a future for the world's children. They write, despite dramatic improvements in survival, nutrition, and education over recent decades, today's children face an uncertain future. Climate change, ecological degradation, migration population, conflict, pervasive inequalities, and predatory commercial practices threaten the health and future of children in every country. And in the faces of this polycrisis, which significantly impacts early development, it is essential to create opportunities for bodily and emotional resilience and for joining forces across disciplines, sectors, and national borders. So I'm genuinely excited about the relevance and urgency of our discussions today and a response to this uncertainty as knowledge workers gathered here, becoming global agents for sustainability by sharing our insights and evidence. Because it is evident, beyond any doubt, that early childhood education is vital, not only for children's development and education, but also for fostering long-term resilience in our societies. So, through this webinar, we aim to raise awareness about the significance of early childhood education and emphasize that children's best interest must matter more in policy making and in everyday practices. The Bangkok Declaration from last year expressed the urgent need to intensify efforts to mitigate the substantial health, social, economic, and environmental impact of oral diseases and health systems and societies. So As a response to these concerns, we will explore recent research, insights, and ideas helpful to enhance, protect, and innovate actions, policy, and the pedagogy within the early years institutions, as well as the ecosystemic levels of society, for the supports of child life and holistic nature of development. This encompasses essential aspects such as early cognitive and social growth, foundational learning, responsive care, responsible innovation, nutrition, health, safety, and protection. And I will also mention play, because we must not forget the meaning and joy of life in all the serious concerns. Through our conversations today, we will uncover how empowering children to care for self-protection, care for others and the planet can lay the groundwork for resilient communities and societies. And we will examine a broad range of conditions fostering international collaboration to tackle the threats and challenges facing future generations.
With this shared perspective, we now move to the second part of our meeting, panel discussion, and to explore together how these ideas can become an action. So usually, discussion of climate and health begin with the question, how is climate treating the children? Today, we want to start differently. We ask, who must the future child become for climate resilience and disease prevention to be possible? This is not only about policies. This is about the human foundation they stand on. So I want to start the question with Isabel. You have said that we cannot heal the planet if we do not first heal humans. From your perspective, what practices or education priorities can help nurture in children the emotional safety and regulation required to sustain the planet, to raise nervous system wired for care, resilience, and cooperation rather than for stress and reactivity?
Well, thank you for this question. I think Alison Bowles said many things about that. So, first of all, I think we really need to avoid toxic stress. And prevent trauma. As Joël Moses said, we really have to train the adults that take care of the children that children need a safe environment. They need to feel safe. Those people taking care of children need to understand that punishing children is not helping. So that's first. Avoid toxic stress and build a nice environment where the child can feel safe and can explore by himself. Secondly, I would highlight the importance of facilitating optimal physical development, because we frequently do not realize how much our thinking abilities and emotional regulation abilities just rely on a functional body. I mean, it's very new science, but we do need a functional body to be able to hold emotions. And emotion is not a psychological event. It's, first of all, a physiological reality in the body. So we need to have a functional body in order to feel emotions. When something triggers you, before your cognitive and associative areas are informed, you're already aroused in your body. So the child needs to be able to hold the emotion within his body. He needs a strong jaw to be able to not just burst out and sing. He needs a functional tongue. He needs a good binocular vision. He needs a good muscle tone. He needs really to have a functional body in order to be able to feel the emotion, understand what's happening inside him, and then express it appropriately. So we must first focus on restoring a good body. Perhaps teach routines to train nasal breathing, good posture, muscle tone, and so on. And third, we have to focus on emotional literacy. Literacy comes first by co-regulation from the adult with the child, because the child as Adele Diamond underscored, it is really the child is not able, when he is too young, to connect the prefrontal cortex with the amygdala. So at first, we teach children emotional regulation by co-regulating with them. So the adult co-regulates the child. It gives security. Just really, when I go down with I'll go with a child at his level, I'll listen to him and just be very, it's not that I'm calm in front of, but I'm secure inside, and then I will just adapt myself and just be on the same. I don't know the name in English. Accordance. Does it? So I accord myself to the emotion of the child, and then I breathe, and he breathes, and so I pace and then lead. Pace the child's rhythm, the child's emotion, and then lead to better to another place. So that's co-regulation. So I teach the child to be secure in his body, even when the amygdala is ringing and the whole body is aroused. Then I will name emotions. I will teach the child to link the sensations with the name of the emotions. I will teach appropriate ways to express the emotions, and I will teach him to identify emotions in himself, but also in others, and of course, problem solving and so on. So first, avoid toxic stress. Second, help restore the healthy body and facilitate optimal physical development. And third, emotional literacy. That will be my answer for the moment. So,
something that I'd like to add to this.
yes.
We're all talking about what we do with the child. If the child can't survive, all the things that we're talking about no longer apply. And of course, survival means, how do I take the next breath? Because if the child doesn't take the next breath, there's no survival. Mm-hmm. So we're looking here at compensations that the body makes, that the infant makes from the moment of birth, to ensure that the next breath will happen. And if there are combinations and problems and compensations as a result of birth issues, of interventions, of epigenetics, of genetics, of trauma, the prime function is, what do I have to do to survive, to take the next breath, so I can listen to the rest of the instructions? And that is where this whole combine revolves around, what is the behavior that the infant has to create in order to survive? And that's what people are not, they're not routinely doing this. So the phrase that I like using is that dysfunction whispers before it screams. Everybody is listening to the scream. What we want to do is to get people to develop the ability to listen to the whisper.
And also, we must stop harm the body of the children, because we are harming them. It was brilliantly said by Uma.
Mm. And unfortunately, what happens there is, this is so commonplace now that it appears to be normal.
Yeah.
It's not normal. And we had this experience in Romania. We were working in a kindergarten there. And at the end of our evaluation process, 63 out of 65 children had failed 5 basic milestones. Well, 63 out of 65 is normal. No, it's not. It's commonplace,
Yes.
but it's not normal. And that is the challenge that we face. And we're all of us in exactly the same boat, but coming at it from different angles.
Yeah. In 40 years, children have lost 25% of their heart capabilities. They have lost strength in their muscle. They have lost many, many physical abilities. Not only are they armed in the jaw, but the whole body is not as efficient as it was.
Well, you see, when I climbed a tree when I was a child and I fell on the ground, the next door neighbor wasn't sued for $1 million. So what's happening today is there's overprotection because everybody is afraid of the consequences. And the children are actually suffering as a result of this.
It's true. And that will lead us to the question to Professor Stenger. Ursula, so if children's physiology and emotional regulation are foundational for planetary health, then we must ask, how can early childhood systems evolve to prepare children for a world that is rapidly changing? What structural or institutional shifts are needed for education to become a protective, health-promoting infrastructure rather than a silent risk factor?
Thank you for the question. I think the educational system must change in addressing this threatening situation because I think, and this was also my question when hearing all these insights about focusing on supporting children's emotional and healthy development and resilience. We focus on this with sleep, with executive functions, and so on. What we heard this day, and I ask myself, is it possible only to focus on this safe and space for a good development? We excluded a little bit the situation of the climate change. We talked about planetary health, but I ask myself, in what way should children be connected with this question? Because we heard that children feel the anxiety of adults. They have a realization of the situation in which we are in. So can we give them only a safe space and a good development like we did it ever before? Or is there an idea how we connect them to this, to involve them in this, but not overwhelm them, of course? They cannot be exposed to everything which we know about the climate change and all of changing circumstances of our lives, which is impacted by that. But I think it's necessary to include them, because I have talked with the children after the flood, and I asked them how they were affected by that, and the most important thing they told me was the adults tried to separate us from what was happening. They don't talk with us, but we know that something very serious was happening, but they separated us. And so my question is, can we create an educational space where we work together on this topic, not only to be in a good connection with nature, but to really feel that this nature and the situation we are in is wounded. It's not only sane, it's wounded. So how can we work on this and give children possibility that they can, in their life circumstances, give a contribution, an active contribution to work on this? How can they make in their narrow local space give an answer to what is happening with the separation of human beings from nature and the destruction of our environment? And that is my question. And you asked me about, and I think the educational system must address this and work more that the adults will get the ability, like you, Isabel, told us, to help children to regulate their emotions and to answer to these emotions, but not to separate them from them because they feel what we feel, I understood, because we mirror them and it's a real situation. And so I think we must connect the two questions which were separated. How is the climate threatening children? And how can we support children that they get resilient? Two questions, I think, must be connected together.
Because, there's a point here, and the point is that we have to educate those parents.
Yes.
And the parents don't know that they need to be educated because that's the way they grew up. So one of the focal points here is if we can get children to become aware,
Yeah.
they will bring this new awareness into the home.
Yeah.
And they will start the reverse education process with the parents. And we need to run courses and inter-family relationships where we talk to the parents and the children at the same time. And that is one of the goals of IOPE. That was one of the reasons we founded this charity.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe, as Sylvia also said, not only teach, but observe the children and help the parents observe the children and build the new skills. Because when we teach, the parents won't always, well, they will use the new tools a little bit, but very often they will not really be empowered. So in order for them to really be empowered, they need to build themselves the new way of dealing with it. So I know that the most effective change in parenting is done when you just film the parents with the child and then you help them observe. And when the parents observe and you help them observe, oh look here, you looked at him and see what he looked at you and he calmed down. So, and then just only showing this help the parents talk together and then discover by themselves the good way of doing things.
Yes. And I think it would be really helpful for the parents because they are stressed, hopeless, and exhausted too, to have tools like mindfulness, meditation, or health practice, or to be supported to focus on what really matters for me and my body, what let me feel healthy and well, and how can I foster these situations in my life. So I think parents also need the support to focus on these questions and to regenerate themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is where the ray of
taking
hope
care of the parents
is.
so that can take care
Yeah.
of the children. Yes.
This is
excuse
where
me.
the current Generation Z or Generation Z is our ray of hope. This is the largest generation ever in the history of the world. 25% of the world is Generation Z. And this is a group of people. They are our future parents, our future teachers, our future specialists, our future industrialists. And this group of people want to be involved. They want better things. They don't have to be told that they need to learn something. They want to learn something. And I think if ever there was hope, the hope lies with this Generation Z. And they are people that we should embrace and we should bring into this entire concept of what it is that we want to do.
I can talk about an experience that we have had because we started about 5 years with working in a public school. And the school idea was to have from cradle to high school. And what we are doing is from nido. So I have been working with the nido, with the teachers that also are training the parents. And then they all, what we expect is that as they keep on growing, we start that and we have primary now. When we have elementary, because elementary, what it is, children from 6 to 12, those are the ones that are very concerned about climate. This is when you really focus on that because they understand, they can see the past and they can see the future. Before 5, they cannot abstract still about the climate and about data and about many things. But the most important is that what we want is that all those that are in high school work as assistants with the nido. So they know how to work with children. What does it mean to understand a 4-month-old baby, a 12-month-old baby? How do you work with a 2-year-old? So we have had experiences fascinating in which a mom was carrying her daughter to the school, and then she came to observe through the window, and I saw her, and she started crying, and she said, I was carrying my daughter, 3 years old, on my arms, and she's the teacher of the other child. She felt embarrassed that she had not seen the greatness of her own daughter. She said, I never thought she was so capable. She's already a teacher for the other children. So training for me, caregivers and professionals in observation and in experience of that, but as you mentioned, is the young people who need to know how does it feel. So it's more about being, as you mentioned, and not like doing. It's being yourself, putting yourself in the shoes of the other person, and that's empathy. Empathy. Parents, if you work with empathy and you tell the parent, how would you feel if you can walk and someone is carrying you? And then that's why the child fights. Why? I don't want to be in a stroller. I don't want to be in your arms. If I have legs, I have to walk. So I believe that the first 3 years are so important because it's a blueprint. As I mentioned, the construction starts there. So if we focus more on that, in every country, in every place, even in marginated areas, we have worked, and the changes are amazing when the parents are involved with the children. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you. And speaking about the systematic changes or shifts, let's say, if our institution right now still reflects the past, then the nature, especially in the brain, becomes a limit. And Joel, from the neurophysiological and physiological perspective, what are the most effective steps we can take in early environments to preserve resilience and prevent toxic stress before learning even begins?
So I hope that my limited experience in English will still allow you to understand. So For me, it's essential to provide mothers with the support necessary to experience pregnancy and maternity leave with confidence and serenity. Fathers also play a vital role in this process, as do the childcare professional who care for children once parents return to work. In every instance, adults must engage with children in a manner that is gentle, ethical, and considerate to the foster secure relationship. Without secure relationship, when the child is in crisis, in emotional crisis, there is a fragmentation of the brain. The prefrontal cortex are not alimented by the nutritional and oxygen to functionate, and at this moment, child cannot have a normal behavior or suitable behavior. He shut down, he collapses, and without connection, without safety feeling, it's impossible for the child to attain the objective to be calm, to be agréable, and respond to the attempt of the expectation of the adults. The quality of interaction between adults and children is crucial for optimal brain development. Adults may at times be challenged by their own emotion, which can lead to less constructive reaction and contribute to the adverse childhood experience. That's life, but we must support families. We must support children, but parents too. Therefore, it's important to prevent education violence by providing adequate support that those responsible for children's education. Subsequently, it's essential to provide optimal conditions to support children's development in an environment conducive to cultivating a respectful and sustaining relationship with nature. Nature is the contact with nature is one of the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joel, there's a very interesting comment there. We're talking about the child's ability to cope with these things. If that child is not biochemically balanced, it can't. Its system is so hyper-aroused because it cannot breathe, because it's trying to compensate, because the oxygenation potential drops as the breathing changes, the oxygen remains bonded to the blood and it doesn't come free. So the child is in this in-between zone of wanting to try to do something, but biochemically not being able to make those connections. And this is where the functionality of breathing, right from the first breath, is so critical in the growth of the child.
We have to educate our parents, right? But how you can help us to add the action plan that sensory disciplines like posture, breathing, chewing, rhythm, and movement have to be architecture of regulation and learning. So what steps we have to start in system changes?
The child must grow functionally, sit properly, chew properly, breathe properly, stand properly, rather than allow those things to become defaults and try to fix them after the event. And the best time to do that is in those first 1,000 days. And particularly in age 3, starting at kindergarten, where they have interaction with other children, where they can observe other children. And this requires training of teachers and of nurses, just in the very basic observational skills. I think that'll go a long way to make this happen.
Yeah, and I believe, Sylvia, you can add, because of all your experience working with this one, but for some reasons you're muted or we can't hear you.
Yes, it's,
yeah.
the observation. Let me tell you, I want to comment about also one thing, how society maybe also help. I remember many years ago, Johnson & Johnson had something like was called infomercials. It was like 1 or 2 minutes about certain things. I remember when I was living in Mexico City, parents used to hit their children. And these infomercials were the child saying something, and they were like drops of wisdom. I think that everything that we have said here, like about breathing and about healthcare, everything, you can ask for minutes in television. And children are using and parents are using television. Use more those type of things that go into the brain of the people to start changing. Like, this is what happens when this is what happens when this happens. They stop hitting children. They stop, and parents became more involved. I see, for example, the change now with, it's not just the mother and father are coming to the school. So there are many parents now. Men have the same responsibility that women with children. Women had always had the only responsibility. No, we need two to make a baby. We need to have both parents involved in the education of their children. And I believe that many of those kind of things could help. But at the same time, I was thinking about helping just by information, even now about sleeping and about food, but in small drops. And I would just put it like, instead of Coca-Cola or something like that, you just start sending the information. It's brilliant what everyone has presented. Everyone needs to know that. And I think people now are, because of the concern about climate, people want to change. So I think this is our greatest opportunity. I feel like I don't have enough time. I'm already going to be 87, and I feel like, please, just all of you can change the mindset of people. It's a changing of mindset. And we can train them. We can, but let's use the media.
Yeah, it's a great idea, by the way, to include all these big companies just to share for their also interest these important messages. We have to know this idea. And now, Roger, I want to ask the direct question. Of course, of all physiological systems, the most fragile and earliest to collapse is sleep. So what would it mean to treat early breathing, sleep, and oral function, not to late-stage medical issues, but a national early detection and prevention priorities?
Well, the answer to that is both simple and complex. People need to know what functional breathing is. And dysfunctional breathing is so commonplace that people think it's normal. When you say to somebody, you're breathing through your mouth, they say, well, what's wrong with that? Everybody else does. So this has to start really early. This should actually be part of prenatal education. How many people understand or realize that a baby for the first 6 months of life breathes between 60 and 70,000 breaths a day? People don't think about this. They don't have that information. And if that baby has struggled to take the first breath, it's going to struggle to take the second breath. And if it doesn't form some kind of compromise or compensation, it will die. Well, if those compensations start to multiply at the rate of 60 to 70,000 times a day, you start getting cascade domino effects down the line where the child is not releasing the neonatal reflexes at the right point in time and maintaining and holding on to the ATNR, the STNR, and these reflexes then form this cascade of dysfunction. And people don't know it because nobody has told them. So this has to be an education campaign for parents, not to go into what these reflexes are, but just for them to understand that there is a construct where the body, which was designed, nobody knows when, 200,000, 300,000 years ago, the body was designed to function, not to malfunction. And we're treating it in such a way that it is struggling to function. And we have to bring simple, basic education to parents-to-be so that they know what to look for down the line.
Alison, how have we already reached the point where inaction is early prevention is not only unethical now, but financially irrational in the world, planet, global position, let's say?
Really is indeed an economic cost, a social cost, an individual cost to not investing, for children to not have enriched environments. Again, enriching experiences can happen through parents, through siblings, through community members, through teachers, through nurses. It can happen in multiple ways. We don't just advocate one specific program, but yeah, you do not want to lose human potential before it's had a chance to form. And again, human development is a full life cycle, including in utero, including multi-generational. So my child was like, my body was developing right when my grandmother was with my, anyhow, the genetics are very a clear line here, but indeed, so our work will document that the costs for abuse, neglect, on suboptimal development will show up in education, in health costs that then get absorbed by societies that choose to invest in them, or families who bear those costs, earnings, investments in future children, in relationships. And these are the threads of society and governments and democracy. And so it is important. Especially today, I think families are under a lot of stress. And it's, I think, a lot of things that are already being brought up. It's the solutions to these that can get quite complicated when a government tries, or philanthropy, right, with very good intentions, is choosing a specific program. Usually it's an evidence-based program, but it's been studied in one place in one time with a given workforce with motivated people because they want to see how it works. But once we get out into the real world, there's a lot of pressure, and that's where I talk about those systems. So, Roger, I really hear and feel what you're saying. We need to educate parents, and I forgot who else was saying it. The child can educate the parents. Love that. Indeed, commercials. Yes, there's evidence. There's the great nudges. I think, who is it? Working with the Bezos Foundation, I believe, Pampers had different scripts on diapers for a while to kind of encourage the verbal interactions. So there are wonderful places that this can show up and be modeled and nudged. But if it's not in that generous spirit, I think it can add more stress. There's a lot of pressure on parents, on moms, on educated moms that's saying, do more, do the best. And I don't know, I think maybe, and teachers as well. And we see that in classrooms. So early Head Start, amazing program. I went to Head Start as well. But when we build in a lot of checklists, then it takes away from interactions. And that's in economics, we think about trade-offs. And once again, those are the things that aren't studied. So I'm wondering if there is a different way that is through these positive nudges, this experience. Sylvia, I'm not sure, was it you, somebody who said being, not training. We definitely do not have enough of that. Isabel, same thing, co-regulation. Yeah. Who do those teachers have? They don't have. How you have 26 children in your classroom and you're one adult and you haven't had 10 minutes, 2 minutes to yourself, to
Even
use the
one.
restroom, right? To take that breath,
Yeah.
to have a sip of water. And that's the care workforce, the caring, and there's not an appreciation for.
We need to learn co-regulation strategies, group strategies, because there are. So you don't have, when you have one adult and 20 children, you don't have to be the adult with only one-to-one. We have many tools now to help regulate many things. And you're right, the parents hear so many things, and they don't want to be taught something new and so on. They feel they feel guilty for everything. It's a lot of burden. They want to be perfect. But if they learn new skills, then life with the children will become so much easier. So at the end, they're very happy in the classroom and in parenting.
Right. So I think it's the how. It's then in the modeling.
Yeah, it is the how.
Co-regulation, they get to experience that. It's not just content put down with fidelity with now a checklist that I have to report that I did it, right? It's really through relationship. And so that's why when I present the evidence, I try to point out that because now I've been working in this space for a long enough period of time. It's like amazing. This works. This is important. It pays off economically. So let's do more. But then I think, okay, we're still studying things. We didn't stop with this is economically efficient. We want to understand how it works, and people aren't as interested. It's very politically wonderful to say we help poor people, but why is it income? It's these relationships, it's these emotions. That's what you're investing in. That's the currency that you want. Curiosity in childhood. Who's going to care for the earth? It's, people who have that connection. And so in Perry Preschool, that's why I point out the teachers say those field trips were important, and they're very sad that today, due to licensing, a lot of, again, very well-intentioned policymakers will make a rule that children need to be safe in the classroom. But the teachers are saying, it's a rainy day. These children need to get outside. Everyone's going crazy. So what are we trying to promote through these policies? It's these connection, the care, the curiosity, not just cognitive skills and safety, physical safety.
Yeah, and just to add to that, 26 children in the classroom with one adult. After 20 minutes, there is no enough oxygen in the class, and especially during the spring and summer days right now. And here we are totally connected with the climate agenda because of air pollution and because of this really changing with warming the climate. And our old schools, they are not ready for to work without shadow, and there is no trees actually around some of the schools, and a lot of cars coming during the morning hours just to drop off children, and all these things of course will not help children to stay concentrate and to be able to learn something even in school. Yeah, and I believe that we probably will have to start working with architects as well, just to change environment, not just inside the room, but also, around the schools, and probably promote parents not to drive too close to schools during one time or 2 times a day. So a lot of to do. Okay, so we're really, with respect and time, I want to turn my last question to Aline, and these policies into life practice. So as we know, both WHO Global Oral Health Action Plan, as well as Bangkok Declaration, call for early prevention through schools and communities, but they stop short of describing how education itself must change. From your perspective, how can pedagogical innovation implement these WHO policies goals without medicalization childhood? From Norway experience.
Yeah, thank you for that question. But first, before I start my answer, I just want to acknowledge all the wise people here, because I think that I will also address and respond to some of you. It's very inspiring to listen to this. Well, I think I will turn to the how questions. Yeah, because we need to find out how we do that, because we have so much evidence, as you have all shown. So how do we do that? And I think that we need to work together with the educators, and also we need to work on a systemic level with the owners of kindergartens, the governments, and so on. But when we work with the educators, I think that we should, they should have, they should be trained. But first of all, I think that we also can listen to them, because they will have knowledge, because they work in a place from a motivation. So I think that we should listen to what motivates them to work with children. And I think that very many educators, they are inspired and want to do good. They want to make a difference with children. So they will have a kind of a kindness in their hearts. So some of you spoke about love. I think that, well, I think that from the beginning, they will be motivated by that. And then they have not the best conditions. So it could be difficult for them. So we need to work with governments so that we make it easier for educators to find back to this kindness, this motivation. Isabel, you talked about we need to avoid stress. And then I would say, yeah, how do we do that? How do we do that within the institutions, with the educators? And I will advocate for play. I think play is a key to avoid stress. So when we train educators, we need to also to go to the knowledge base of play. What is play, and how can you feel the play in your body? How what will encourage you to be playful with the child? And when you are trying to support children to co-regulate, how do you do that? I think that because that could differ very, very much also from culture, how you are brought up yourself. Someone said, so are you punishing the child, or are you, or are you with kindness and a playful, humorous way guiding the child? So I will just tell a story. Some years ago, I interviewed some very old pioneers in Norway, the ones that had made a difference for the evolution of our kindergarten systems, and one of them who had established a kindergarten during World War II on very difficult circumstances in Norway. I asked her, what was the most important thing that you achieved during these years? And she said, I think the most important thing that I did was actually to show families alternatives to punishment. Because so many of the parents at that time, we're talking about the 1940s, when the child was disobedient, it was accustomed to smack a finger or to punish in some way, even to lock the child, inside a room alone. And she said that I could show, because I was trained an early childhood teacher, I could show them another way. So we talked about that. So she said that was looking back. I interviewed her when she was, I think she was 87 years old. And when looking back, that was what she thought was the most important thing. So I think that kindergarten teacher would have some experience. And I would tell another story too. I learned something in China last year. I was in Chengdu. Chengdu was in 2008. There was a huge earthquake in Chengdu, and one of the teachers told me, because I was very impressed in a kindergarten, that they have rewilded the kindergarten. It was a middle of a huge city. Chengdu is, I think, is 20 or 25 million people there. But after the earthquake, they learned that they couldn't stay inside, so they needed to stay outside to stay safe. And they experienced that the children were really, really scared of, parks, and they haven't learned how to pee outside. So they held, they held their body. Yeah, they were filled of anxiety. So when they should rebuild the kindergartens, they rewilded their environments in the kindergarten and learned them to deal with different kind of materials: sand, mud, water, being messy, let the body be sensational, so that they shouldn't feel in a new crisis situation. That was the rationale for them. So in a new crisis situation, they should be so resilient that they would dare to be outside in the wild. So I think that we need to rewild the environment. And in Norway, when it comes to the youngest children that sleep during day, very many has provided outdoor sleeping. Of course, that could be troublesome if the air is very polluted, of course, but and they need to not during a hot summer day, but here in our country, it's most of the year is very cold, and the air is fresh. So, but what the experience of this is that sickness decreases. The children stay more healthy by sleeping outdoor. So that is one lesson learned. I also would like to advocate for, when working with the educators and this hopefulness with a new generation, as Roger informed us about. I think that's a very, very good idea to co-create with them, to co-create innovations. I also like this concept of not only innovation, but also retrovation. As I tried to show in my talk here, that there will also be lesson learned to go back to, philosophy. Because like Johan Amos Comenius said, that what you should do with the infant, so take the infant to the river, let the infant listen to the sound of the river, let the child take the hand and the foot in the river, so this to play with all the senses from the start. So that takes me back to the necessary thing of our global responsibility to rewild our cities and to make sure that that there will be air to breathe in. So yeah, I think that I will finalize my response to your question there.
May I add something in closing?
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of people don't have a lot of hope. I think Sylvia and I go back a long way. We're both in our mid-70s. We have a view of mid-80s. We have a view of life which is a little different. And remember, history will repeat itself, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. We are going through a change. The world is at the end of its 4th generational cycle. It's a time of renewal. It's a time of change, of attitude and approach. This is the pendulum swing coming back. And when you look at our age split across this group, there's a 45-year age split across what we do. So the hope here is, this is all about regeneration. This is all about coming up with new ideas, which are actually not new. They are the old ideas that we have to bring back. Because we've gone through this technological shift. There's an enormous amount of hope. I think the new generation of children under our guidance will benefit enormously from what it is that we do. So thank you, everybody, for your participation. It's been an absolute joy and a privilege to be part of this whole IOP organization. And I think we're only going to go from strength to strength. And next year, we're going to have a lot more interaction individually and as a group of people. Thank you so much.
Super good. I believe that during the next year that we will have a great exchange between different pedagogical technologies around the world. It will be really, really important and helpful. And I'm really excited for the next year. And I'm so happy that all of you will be with us. And please invite your colleagues and other professionals, because of course we're limited with time during the session, but we will have more intensive and deep dive into these dialogues and topics during the year, and we'll share it not just with healthcare providers, but with educators and parents. So today confirmed the paradigm shift, I believe, and early childhood is not merely education, it's also the first line of planetary health infrastructure. And on behalf of the International Institute of Orthopostural Education and our colleagues across the world, we thank each of our speakers for leading us through this new conversation. And thank you to everyone joining us today, educators, clinicians, parents, policymakers, all us attendees. They still with us, so late night or in the midday in their countries. So for carrying the dialogue into the classrooms, clinics, and communities to spread the word. And I believe that science is clear, the vision is shared, and it's time to act now.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.